just to give us a little history, I think Minnesota deserves to know the history of where did these gun bills come from that are coming through the House chambers today. Well, at the beginning of the session, we don't need to rehash this, but of course we had the election. The Democrats have the trifecta, governor, Senate, and the House, and they are taking it upon themselves to push through gun legislation that Minnesota does not want. At the beginning of the session, we had 4 gun bills coming through the House, going through the committees. 2 of them got dropped. And the other 2 that are now that we're just voting on, HF 14, HF 15, they just kind of work their way into this big, giant public safety omnibus bill. Well, how politically convenient that we are going to put our Second Amendment rights at risk, and we're not even going to do it as a standalone bill. We're not even going to put it out there for, this is how the Minnesotans want us to address an issue, a new law that is as important as infringing on our Second Amendment rights. This absolutely should have came through as a standalone bill. Only the Democrats, Minnesota, no, they did not have the support. They did not have the support in the Senate. They knew this was putting their members at risk. They knew this. So there's reasons why we do things politically, and then there's things that we do for policy. This is bad for both. This is bad for both. Politically, this moved through the Minnesota legislature in a way that we shouldn't. So my amendment, the A10 amendment, is to delete all the extreme risk protection orders in Article 15. To delete it. Because politically, this did not move through the legislative process the way this should go through the process. And policy-wise, this is terrible policy. This violates due process. This violates civil rights. This violates our constitutional rights. And this does not address the actual problem, the person at risk, the individual. This does not address that. We already have laws. We already have laws that can be enforced for mental health care crisis. We already have laws for someone that could harm someone. Yet you're not interested in enforcing those laws. What you are doing with this red flag law is you are allowing someone to go to the court and to take someone's guns with that person not even being aware. Members, we are here to protect the citizens of Minnesota. We are here for Minnesotans. And before I get asked the question, did I talk to the sheriffs? Did I talk to the police? Absolutely, I did. And by citing one sheriff who is against this law, how disingenuous is that? There is 87 counties, 87 sheriffs. One sheriff does not talk for all of the sheriffs in Minnesota. And lastly, why this is bad policy, why this is actually terrible policy, is that you are putting our law enforcement at great risk. You are asking our law enforcement to do something that would put them at great risk. Members, this is very serious. You are working to pass a law just because you are in the majority. This is not right for Minnesota. I have done 3 town halls in my district and 1 in Winona outside of my district. Every one of them pulling 150 to 200 people. Minnesotans overwhelmingly do not want this law. Please, members, vote for my amendment. This is political, and there's no way around this. It is very disappointing to see how we use stories of tragedy to drive emotion and fear into people. We are all on the same page. None of us want violence. None of us want people hurt. None of us want to see school shootings. And unfortunately, these tragedies continue to happen. But here's some hard facts. And that is that criminals do not follow the laws. That's a fact. On this specific bill that we're trying to pass the red flag law, we have heard over and over stories of Representative O'Neill, 2 people that committed suicide with no warning. And that often is the case that you hear over and over. There's no warning. That's a fact. Madam Speaker, would Representative Fraser yield to a question?
He will yield. Representative Altendorf.
Representative Fraser, my question is, does California have this law on their, in their state?
Representative Fraser.
The reality of this is we're trying to save lives here. We're trying to prevent more mass shootings in our communities. We're trying to prevent tragedies. We're trying to prevent families from getting that call that there's an active shooter at their children's school. That's what we're trying to prevent here. I urge a no vote on this.
What I heard is we went right back to the emotion of it. We went right back to the emotion to drive the fear into the public. Right back to the emotion. The facts are that California does have this law instated. They do have this law. And yet, California, oops, sorry, I lost it. ABC News, anyone can Google this, January 2023. Experts explain why California is still rife with gun violence despite some of the most stringent gun laws in the country. Experts explain why California is still rife with gun violence despite some of the most stringent gun laws in the country. Members, with the trifecta it seems that the Democrats are working really, really hard to move us towards California and their policies. Minnesota objects to this. Minnesota objects to this. It does matter, Representative Frazier. You said it doesn't matter the question that I asked. It does matter because we are voting right now in the state of Minnesota to pass a law that doesn't work, that doesn't stop the crime. It does matter. Facts do matter. We cannot continue to manipulate people on emotion and fear to drive a political agenda. Members, when you vote for this today, please vote yes. And if you vote no, you are voting to violate Minnesotans' due process. You are voting to violate Minnesotans' civil rights. You are voting to violate our constitutional rights. So if you vote no right now, today, on this amendment, you are voting against the majority of Minnesotans that do not want this. We want safety. We want reduced gun crimes. We want reduced crimes, but not this way. Please vote yes.